as high as hell, as high.
There you go, son. Happy Christmas. It's up a little.
Right, you ready? Hello and welcome to Watch This. Watch This.
We didn't rehearse this.
Oh, hold on. At this camera. Hello and welcome to hold on. CVXX.
If you're going to use both horns for the X's, I would use the both horns for the V as well, because that V looked like a U, and as we've established already, it's not a U.
Oh, does that look like
it's not a U?
Does that look more like a U than a V? Right, let's try this then. Welcome to What about that? This CVXX.
Yeah, that'll do.
From
No, don't do that because there's too many.
From Guffed. Ryan,
Industries.
it's such a pleasure to be still persisting in 1989.
Have you had some kind of surgery or something like that? Is that are you hiding some?
No, this is
some work
no. I'm
that
just
you've
cool.
had done.
I'm just cool. I saw Jack Nicholson recently at the Saturday Night Live anniversary thing, and Jack Nicholson was sitting there. He looked like a big fat sack of shit, but he had these black sunglasses on.
I think that when I see him as well, because I know that he's notoriously good with the ladies, but when I see him, he just looks like a big sack of, like a ball sack with a face, kind of.
A
like
big fat sack of
tufts
beans.
of hair just springing out everywhere. I'll wear him.
I'll take The Shining. I'll tell you what's shining. His big fat belly is shining. CVXX. Welcome
I done
to
the full
CVXX.
coffee there. That was nearly a disaster.
Welcome to CVXX.
In 1989, on the Commodore Amiga, we were treated to more Dungeon Master in the form of Chaos Strikes Back, a bigger, much more difficult expansion to Dungeon Master. And it reminds me that although we might be leaving the 1980s, which is sad and a wee bit worrying, we are also about to go into the 1990s, which is a time for both me and Rab of discovery. Somehow a time of great discovery while sitting in our bedrooms. At no other point in our existence than in the 1990s did we spend so much time with this hobby and film watching and telly watching and marry this hobby, this video gaming hobby. So much discovery of things through various screens, various CRTs. So much trying out different things and finding out what your tastes are. The bedroom years are coming. The teenage, smelly bastard, angst-filled bedroom years are coming. Here, is your ma out for the night? Why don't you try playing Emmanuel on the Amiga? You might see a cartoon nipple. These games don't exist anymore, these Emmanuel games. They exist, obviously, you can get the ROM. What I mean is, you don't get away with making games just on the promise that you might see a cartoon nipple. You might go the entire duration of one of these games and never see a cartoon nipple, but you might see it, and that's the only reason that you're playing this game. You don't get away with that anymore. Even back then, even back in the day, the only people who were playing these games were 13-year-old boys who had so much time to kill in the search of a cartoon nipple. The better I'm thinking about it, I don't actually know if there was a better period in my life where I was just fighting mummies in dungeons and trying to get swatches of cartoon nipples every now and again when a woman's having a bath under a waterfall, having a shower under a waterfall, really, ain't she? Absolutely, it's just started in 1989 as well, another brilliant Scottish comedy show. I couldn't believe how much I was enjoying Mr. Don and Mr. George's silliness. Fully grown men, acting like a couple of fools, with Scottish accents. No Glaswegian accents, unfortunately, but still Scottish accents. So I'm not going to lose too much hope. I'm not going to get too down in the dumps that we're leaving the 1980s. It would have been nice to spend some more time there in the early memories of childhood. But there's so much, most in fact, still to come. The time that we're about to enter into is such an important cocooning that happens for nerds like us. So I'm going to try and soak it up. I'm going to try and soak up all of that potent teenage angst-ridden sweat. Let's go. Let's paint our bedrooms black.
It's great to be still in 1989 with my wonderful friend over here. You're looking very slim and slender still, I have to say.
It's anxiety.
Anxiety keeps the weight off. I'm struggling. I'm living too much of the good life out there on the West Coast. and I need to guff
You
it.
mean you're planting your own vegetables and stuff like that?
It's time. No,
You've
I'll
got a
take
pig
away.
running about your garden.
It's time for Ozempic. It's Ozempic time for me.
Is that stuff cheap? Just out of interest.
I don't think it's cheap, but I think if you pretend you're diabetic, you get it for nothing. So that's
See,
my
if I
plan.
take Ozempic, do you mind that scene in It's the Wrong Year? We can't talk about it.
You can listen. I don't care. Time
That
slip
scene in
all you want.
Under the Skin, where when the guys fall into whatever it is, the blackness, and then one of them like pops, and he kind of pops
Yeah, he
like
goes,
at him.
Oh,
Would
wait.
that happen to me if I took
That would happen
Ozempic?
to you because you're too slender as it is. You're not too slender. You look great. You're in great shape.
Thanks
I have
very
to say,
much. Thanks very much.
you're in great shape.
Thanks to Guft.
In fact, let's raise a glass to Ryan's slender body, slim hips, wee snake hips. Ryan, snake hips, McLeod.
Thanks to Guft supplements.
Okay, so 1989, we're still there. We've got some amazing stuff to talk about this episode. And the reason why we've done 3 parts on 1989 is because there's just so much stuff. There's a wealth of amazing stuff.
And we don't want to move out of the 80s.
And we don't.
Shitting ourselves about coming into the modern day.
We don't want to become us, who we are just now, which is old men.
Fool me once. You get fooled, you can't get fooled
Okay,
again.
exactly.
Can't get fooled again.
Fool me once. Shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Ryan, can I just take you back to the year 1989 for a minute? Now, let me put this past you. I'm going to tell you some of the albums of 1989, okay? And I want to get your opinion on them because...
A lot of good music.
Hey, what have you got there, Ryan? What's that?
That's the RM magazine, Record Mirror, it's called.
you want to
I thought it was a pullout, but it's actually...
Do you want to pick it up? Will we
go
use
on,
it? We could
yeah.
use it for this segment
Go on,
if you
then.
can just get past your microphone there.
my
I just want to
coffee.
thank everybody for their support for CVXX. Please continue to spread the word. Listen, if any broadsheet writers of The Guardian want to write about us or
Look, they've
interview us, just get in touch with Guft.
Please get in touch with us, please. Look, they've done a funny joke in the back. They've replaced
Okay.
Craig from Bros with different characters. Look, there he is.
Okay, do you want to show it to the camera as well?
Andrew Ridgely,
There we go.
or Morrissey. Imagine Morrissey and
Morrissey
Bros.
and Bros, that's not going to work.
Glenn Medeiros.
Glenn
Is that-
Medeiros, yeah,
that-
yeah.
Or Frank Sidebottom. We've worked with him. Frank
Sidebottom, there you
Frank
go. There's a wee connection there. We have worked with Frank Sidebottom, and he was a lovely man. It was a pleasure. Wasn't it?
He was great. A very creative individual.
A very creative individual, without a shadow of a doubt, a legend.
Yeah,
One
so
could
this
say.
magazine was released in 1989. Not only released in 1989, but also released in my birthday in 1989.
Who's on the cover
March.
of this magazine?
That's French and Saunders.
You get French and Saunders.
Because they were doing their single with Bananarama, weren't they? Remember?
So
they
yeah,
were-
for Comic Relief.
Yeah, and there's that big, massive interview kind of pull out with Fuzzbox. Here it says Fuzzbox are back, and that spells fab. No, I don't know. I don't know who Fuzzbox.
I have no recollection of Fuzzbox at all. Who are Fuzzbox?
Let me just get the pictures and see if that kind of... Does that refresh your memory?
Fuzzbox are Go. I've got fucking no idea who that is.
Like, if you hadn't showed me the article and you just showed me these women, I just went, that's the staff at a W.H. Smith or something.
What is it they call this? The Mandela effect or something? This kind of thing where there's like a thing that exists or a thing that you remember and it doesn't exist the same way. Is it something to do with Nelson Mandela, the freedom fighter? Or,
I've not read it,
depending
but
on your politics, the terrorist?
if I had my data slate, I could just...
Speaking of fuzz boxes, okay, my groin is ready to tell you about these albums, right?
Right.
So first of all,
You do that.
Fine Young Cannibals arrived on the
Sorry.
scene with The Raw and the Cooked.
Some album, that is some album.
And then there was, what would you give that out of 10, Ryan, if you were scoring?
I love that album. I'm giving it a 10.
You drop it crazy. All that stuff. What's...
As hard as it is. That
Oh,
one
what
as
is a
well.
great album.
Aye.
Rolling Gift. And let me
So-
tell you something.
Somebody's marked singles that they like in my magazine. That's priceless.
That is priceless. Can I just say something? Is that Mr. Paul McCartney?
That
there?
is. That
Can we
is.
get that on screen? There's a photo of Mr. Paul McCartney, who in 1989 would have only been about, what, 40 maybe?
Yeah.
Younger than
Younger
us.
than us.
Younger than us.
Younger than us.
Younger than us.
Younger than us.
Paul McCartney, who at that time we probably considered an old guy. Right, Fine Young
All
Cannibals.
the pictures in this magazine have got wee comments under them, wee funny comments.
does it say
And Paul
about Macca?
McCartney says, manages to shake off Linda briefly. Making a wee comment about
Yeah,
how
because Linda was always there. Because he loved his wife. That's very funny. So, can I
Sado.
just say, I have a wee joke about Fine Young Cannibals.
you're going to tell us what it is?
The lead singer, the lead singer of Fine Young Cannibals was of course Roland Gift, and let me just tell you something. What a gift he was. De La Soul released 3 Feet High and Rising in 1989.
Oh, that's great. That
Which is one of the greatest albums ever recorded. Madonna released Like a Prayer. Stone Roses released their debut album, which means, let me tell you something, that album means a great deal to an awful lot of people. That Stone Roses album, personally, I think it's dog shit.
Is there name a good song off it?
I don't know. I am dominated, something like that. The Cure, Disintegration, Ryan.
Oh,
You're a
that's
bit of a Cure fan,
beautiful.
aren't you?
That's beautiful. That's part of a trilogy, that album, I'm sure.
Do you know what the cure for being a fat bastard is? Ozempic. That's what the cure is these days.
There's adverts for DJs, like DJs putting their details up for hire. And
That's a great magazine, by the way. By the way, McCartney in that year, can I tell you?
Fucking the Dominion Theatre
The
in Tottenham
Dominion.
Court. Sabrina.
Is Sabrina a boys?
Aye.
What?
Tickets are only £7.50.
I don't mean this in any kind of objectifying woman way, right? But what a pair of tits that woman had on her.
See that song?
Can we get a wee bit of footage up of Sabrina, because
What one is hers?
it's just objective reality.
Because I'm thinking that, is it Tiffany that sang I Think We're Alone Now?
Yeah.
I still remember the tingle that gave me that song.
What kind of tingle?
Just, I don't know. I remember the
in
tingle
your fuzz
being...
box, tingle in your fuzz
It
box.
might have been in my fuzz box. I might have been slightly higher. But it was a tingle that I was unfamiliar with anyway.
The prostate.
When she said, I think we're alone now. Could have been that. Because the doctor says that as well, didn't he, when he's giving you the exam? I think we're alone.
Paul McCartney released Flowers in the Dirt in 1989. That's what he was up to, which is an album that he worked with Elvis Costello on. And it has I think it's a brilliant single, My Brave Face. I think it's a brilliant McCartney song. I love it. Nirvana released Bleach. They arrived on the scene with Bleach. Kurt Cobain blasting onto the scene, and soon would be blasting his brains all the scene of his own bedroom. Faith No More, The Real Thing. Epic, mate. So there's the 90s arriving, if you ask me, with Faith No More coming in with The Real Thing.
sure.
The B-52s arrived, well, never arrived because they were around for about 100 years. They were about 90. Cosmic Thing, which had Love Shack on it. Love Shack is a little old place where we can get together. And Kate Bush released The Sensual World.
Sensual World.
Pays to look before you leap. What is that an advert for?
It's an advert for Johnny Bags.
Oh, there you go.
Durex Johnny Bags.
The Sensual World by Kate Bush, of course, just an absolute masterpiece. Sensual World, this woman's work. It's just some of Kate Bush's best stuff on there. But seriously, by Phil Collins, you're a bit of Phil Collins fan,
Are you
right?
not? You know, it's the voice of.
I think you're more of a Phil Collins fan than I am.
I love that Phil Collins.
I like a wee bit of Phil Collins. Let me tell you, I like a wee bit of Phil Collins.
XTC brought out Oranges and Lemons. I've just found out by looking at this page.
And can I just say that something extremely significant happens, because there was a storm front coming, by the way, in 1989, as Mr. Billy Joel released his album Stormfront, which contains my favourite Billy Joel song, And So It Goes, is on that
I was
album.
unaware of that.
And also I Go to Extremes is on it, Leningrad is on it. It's a brilliant album.
I know. Tell me it's a brilliant album.
Blue Nile released Hats. So there's a Scottish contribution there with Let's Go Out Tonight on it. That's just a masterpiece. So a great year for music. But Ryan,
Some of the singles of the week for the 4th of March.
yeah, let me know.
Veronica by Elvis Costello. The Golden
I
Calf.
love that song, and that was with McCartney, I'm sure. Veronica.
Yeah. Prefab Sprouts, The Golden Calf.
Prefab Sprout, man.
Who are Easterhouse? Never heard of Easterhouse come out fainting. Do you know that?
Easterhouse, they're
I
called?
feel like I would
What the
remember
fuck is
something.
going on? Easterhouse and
Somebody called,
Fuzzbox.
I don't know. Easterhouse is a place in Glasgow, for
Yeah.
those that don't know. Kim Wilde, Love in the Natural Way.
Yeah, I remember that.
Doesn't
Yeah,
say what the natural way is.
loving the natural.
There's loads of other ones, but I don't recognise them, so I'm not mentioning them.
Yeah, okay.
I just wanted to share with you. When it comes to 1989 games, there's one game that really never did it for me, and that game was Strider. Now, I've always felt like the odd man out here because everybody else that I know who loves retro games all are crazy about Strider. They all love Strider. And I thought to myself for a long time, this must be because they are Mega Drive fans. For Mega Drive fans, Strider must be a big deal. But for me, I just didn't get it. Until I got this arcade 1-up machine that has the arcade games on it, and I had the arcade version of Strider in my house, and I would watch my Waynes playing it, and my Waynes always like putting on Strider. They like something about how it looks, about the way guys come apart when you attack them. I think they like the visual style of it. I think for them, Strider, this old game from 1989, feels far more modern than a lot of games from that time, you know? I mean, they'll happily watch me play Ghosts and Goblins and all of these kind of old games. They'll watch me playing Bubble Bobble and all that. But there's something about Strider, just the fact that it's a wee bit more realistic. It's a wee bit closer to the kind of action games you see nowadays that really grabs them. So, you know, now I respect Strider. I mean, I play it on occasion. I'm nae good at it. It still feels a wee bit clunky and jerky and odd to me. It doesn't feel very pleasant to play, I don't think. But when I see my kids watch it and getting excited about the world of the game and getting excited about how the characters react and how the baddies behave, yeah, I get it. I think finally I get it.
Well, listen, Batman also released... Okay, let me do that again because Batman... Let me do that again because Batman did not release an album called Prince in 1989. Prince released an album called Batman in 1989, which will lead us seamlessly into our first bit of content, which is a discussion on the movie, I think, Ryan.
Quite unusual for CVXX. We've decided doing 3 parts in 1989 has given us enough space to cover the biggest film release of the year, which isn't like us. The biggest grossing film of 1989 is what we're covering.
The reason why we're talking about this film and why we decided we couldn't avoid it is because, seriously, you had to be there in 1989 to understand how all-encompassing the release of the Batman film was. It was definitely...
Batman. We're covering Batman, the film Batman.
It's Batman. Had we not even said that?
Well, you said it was released by Batman, so far away.
Definitely the most significant cultural,
Did you think that Batman directed the Batman film?
It was the most significant cultural, artistic event of my life in the year 1989.
How vivid is your memory of seeing the film for the first time? Mine is very vivid.
Extremely vivid. Mm-hmm. Extremely vivid. I've got very strong memories of that year.
I have very vivid memories of going to see the film, and for a time after it, how the impact that the film had was just massive. It had a massive impact. Amount of merch and stuff like that. That was about was incredible, but I don't remember much of a build-up. There must have been a build-up to seeing the film.
There was definitely a build-up. I remember the excitement because that was how I got into comics. I always liked British comics like 2000 AD. I was a big 2000 AD fan, but the first time I really properly got into American comics was in anticipation of Batman. I started buying Batman comics, so I knew it was coming, and also. I'm pretty sure that soundtrack by Prince was out there before the film actually arrived.
Right, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it was. And this was in a time.
You already a Prince fan by Batman?
Yeah,
I'm not a Prince fan by this time.
Right. So this was a time when you could walk down the street. If you walked down the street and you walked past HMV, or if you walk past Virgin or these kind of shops, they were allowed at that time to blast their music out of the doors of the shop. Do you remember this? You don't really get this these days, but they used to be able to blast their music, and that Batman soundtrack would be played. If you would go into the city centre and walk down the street, you would be hearing Prince and that Batman soundtrack. You'd be hearing Bat Dance. You'd be hearing all of that. Just it was absolutely everywhere. And I do also have a memory of the kind of fuss before the film came out about the fact Michael Keaton was playing Batman.
I don't think I remember it for the time, but I know that there was a massive stink. In retrospect, I'm aware that there was a massive.
Because obviously he was just like a comedy guy, and everybody was like, "Why is this guy playing Batman?" So yeah, and then the film arrived.
Some things haven't changed.
Yeah. What is your vivid memory of?
I went to see it with a guy who's in your year. I think we've even spoken about him before on CVXX. Shout out to Craig McLean. I went because Craig McLean was like one of these, you grow up with some folk that are kind of close friends of the family and they're considered cousins, so you call each other cousins. So I went with my cousin Craig and his dad. He took us. It was a late night, felt like a late night showing because it was dark, but it was like maybe 7:30, 8 o'clock at night.
That definitely dark by the time you came out.
Aye. It was dark. No, it was dark when we went in, I'm sure.
Right.
Definitely dark when we came out, but I'm sure it was dark when we went in as well. Massive queue. I remember it being absolutely. I'd never been to a film that had been. Maybe Back to the Future was as busy, but it was chock full anyway. Absolutely stowed. We got these promotional beer coasters we saw it in the was it the ABC on Sauchiehall Hall Street? It's shut now.
Yeah.
But the cinema that used to be right dead centre on Sauchiehall Hall Street in Glasgow is where we saw it. And our mind became him with these promotional beer mats that were the Batman symbol.
See, I don't think it was called the ABC at the time.
It wasn't called the ABC.
Was it the Canon?
I had Canon in my head,
Yeah,
but I
it was
wasn't
a
sure if
Canon,
that was the right one.
I went to see it with my mum. My mum took me to see it, and we maybe went in to see it at maybe 5 p.m. or so. We went to see it in the Odeon in Renfield Street.
Your mum was a big Batman fan.
She was a massive Batman freak. So she took me to see that, and it was maybe 5 p.m. at night or something like that. And by the time we came out, it was dark. And my strongest memory of this is standing at the bus stop to go home, the bus stop opposite the Odeon at Renfield Street, and looking up at because there's some quite high buildings there. And the film had such an impact on me. I was just so kind of thrilled and exhilarated, and I was looking up at the height of these buildings, and I was thinking, he could be up there. A guy like that could be up there. Like, it could be, you could actually be Batman and stuff. I was just so, I just loved it so much. Like, I loved it so much, and it felt so exciting. It's difficult to recapture a feeling like that. But we did revisit the film, didn't we, Ryan?
It makes me think again, gone over this a good few times so far, but it makes me think again about how difficult it is to put into perspective what it was like in that time. Like how, now, everything's so immediate, content is so immediate. Like, you're talking about the music blaring out of shop doors and stuff like that. Like, that wouldn't have the impact that it had then, because it was much more a rarity to have these events and these kind of envelopes for America of culture that they sent out to us.
It was also like a beautifully marketed film as well.
The timing for us is like,
yeah, and it wasn't until
perfect.
recently that I kind of thought to myself, I wonder if Ghostbusters had an impact on the marketing of this, because it was the logo, right? I remember Ghostbusters being heavily marketed on its logo, and that was like the first film I can remember that was heavily marketed on one logo image.
Just a wee nostalgia flicker for like a hologram logo of the Ghostbusters.
Yeah, and Batman was the same. That logo was everywhere, more than anything else. That Batman logo was on everything. There was even like stickers were stuck on things. It was almost like that kind of marketing as well, where it was everywhere. It was a logo that was super easy to draw. I think is key as well. You couldn't really draw the Ghostbusters logo, right? I mean, you could, if you were good at drawing, you could draw the Ghostbusters logo, right? But a normal wee guy at school could just go a circle, like I can do it now, long practice just drawing that Batman logo, so you could put it everywhere, Genius. Anyway, we revisited it for the first time in a long time, and I felt like I kind of knew it off by heart when I was watching it.
I don't
even
know.
Though it's been a while.
Do you think this is like them first figuring out that things like, because superhero stories come along with things like Lowell and stuff like that, it marries with marketing really well?
See, this is
and getting the worms into people's heads.
the thing I really like about Batman is that I don't think it suffers from the kind of sickness we see now in marketing. Like, I think
What
it
I'm
is.
saying is that do you think that's the film industry figuring that out that's useful? Well, they couldn't ignore it after Batman, could they? Because
I
it
think
made
that-
$500 million.
I think that's creating the model a wee bit, right? But I think the general, which we'll get to, the general. I mean, I'm not taking a great deal of notes about
Me
Batman,
neither.
to be honest. Just some bullet points, I guess, which I want to hit on. Which, my focus was, Jack Nicholson is great in it, obviously, but my focus was always, I don't know if it was because I went into the film watching it with an awareness, when I was a kid, watching it with an awareness in my mind that, Michael Keaton might not be right, or Batman might not be right, and then being completely blown away by it when I saw it as a wee guy. So I've always had in my mind Michael Keaton is really amazing in this film. And when I watched it again recently, Michael Keaton is really amazing in this film.
You've always fucking loved Michael Keaton, though. You've always.
Yeah, I have always loved Michael Keaton. I think he's just an amazing actor, and I think he's an amazing amount of charm.
He is. There was a scene between, we're jumping quite a way into the film, but there's a scene between the tray scene.
Right, yeah.
But even the beginning of the tray scene before Joker turns up, he has a presence and a warmth about him that I don't know how he does it, but he has a really pleasant presence a lot of the time. Michael Keaton, he's very, very welcoming.
Yeah.
On screen.
What I kind of like about Michael Keaton's performance in Batman is that it isn't the comic book Batman or Bruce Wayne that he's playing. He's just decided, I'm going to do my own version of it. He's completely his own version of Batman.
But I think they've all done that. I think that's been that project, though, because it's Tim Burton, so it's never going to be like... It's probably an easier production to be an individual on, I would imagine. It's probably something that's encouraged, I would imagine.
Yeah,
I would hope.
What you completely buy him as, though, is a kind of a man who was this kind of wounded child. You completely buy him as that. And you also, like, my favourite scene in any Batman films, and, I've seen all the Batman films, my favourite scene in any Batman film is "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts." Is my favourite.
It's the same scene.
Yeah.
It's quite a long, varied scene.
Wow. Made mistakes. And then he had us.
Great shot! Now you want to get nuts! Come on! Let's get nuts.
Tell me something, my friend. You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? What? I always ask that of all my prey. I just like the sound of it.
That's my favourite scene in any Batman film because for me, it distills that thing that thing I like about Batman is that Batman is a guy who is mentally ill and understands that he's mentally ill and uses it and embraces it. And you never really see Bruce Wayne open up like that in anything else, you know what I mean?
I'm totally up for this. Is we don't often do this sort of comparison, but I'm totally up for like dark, serious Batman. But I've like this film and Batman Returns are probably still my favourite Batman films. I think Batman Returns is one of my favourite superhero films. It's definitely my favourite Batman film. But I enjoy that about the Tim Burton films, that they're no as like serious though.
Well, this is the thing, right? They're not serious, and they're quite. I mean, it's quite regularly
Did
funny.
you like the Batman?
No, really.
I couldn't stand it.
It was.
Which goes in complete contrast to like the IMDb rating.
I mean, I enjoyed elements of it, but on the whole, no. The thing is, like, I think sometimes when people do a serious treatment of Batman, right, they think that what that means is a kind of gritty, earthy reality to it that's almost becomes depressing, almost, right, and oppressive. And to me, Batman has never really been that in the comics. The darkness is always tempered with this kind of surrealism, and you know, he's a guy that lives in this cave and has a big giant coin in a T-Rex, and you know that's Batman for me, that has the two sides. What Tim Burton does amazingly in this film is it's a dark treatment of Batman, but it's a really kind of mythic and big and kind of surreal treatment to it as well. So the darkness never overwhelms everything and makes it feel depressing. The darkness almost feels like what Tim Burton's good at. Tim Burton is good at making darkness like a carnival ride, like a kind of thrill park version of darkness, and that really, really works for Batman. Again, I don't want to talk about another film too much in a review of this. The amazing thing about Batman is that Batman Returns is even better. And because it pushes even further in that direction of like a dark fairy tale almost, and that really works well.
It
for
feels
Batman.
the second one feels much more complete and contained than
Confident.
Aye. Which makes total sense because first Batman film they're going into a completely new thing, like a new production, a new oh god, I just see the relief that I had just for seeing the opening shots and seeing Gotham look like Gotham. It just reminded me how disappointing it has been for so long.
But how much did Gotham exist like that in your mind before you saw that though, or is it new? You just think of Gotham as that because of that film?
I think
forever.
there can be different interpretations in Gotham, but in particular, like I don't want to keep doing this. We'll stop doing it. But Nolan's Batman films, it felt like made the effort to build to show you.
It just looks like they were in Chicago or something, or just look like
as if it hadn't been a consideration. But if you can't make a Batman film and also think about Gotham because that's your world.
Yeah, because the city is as much a character.
It's an expression. Aye. It's an expression of the times.
Well, this is what they get right in this film. What they get right is, it's just that, for me, I think it's just such a smart film because it's almost like it has so many different pegs in it to support the film. It can't miss. I feel like it can't miss.
What do you mean? What's the pegs?
So it's got all the amazing kind of art design of like the city and stuff like that, which is just immediately captivating, right? Just that, the setting it, just that. Then you've got the cool vehicles that Wayne's are just going to love. Like, you're just going to...
I remember as a Wayne immediately liking the Batmobile. I love it. But I remember this was a topic of discussion after coming out in the cinema because Craig and his dad were just like, oh, I'd love a shot of that Batmobile. And I was like, I like the one for Adam West. I still like the one for Adam West.
Me too,
but
me too.
I like
it has a kind of, it's quite similar to the old Adam West one. It has a similar kind of curve to it and all that.
Definitely.
But so it's got that, and you know, all these gadgets and stuff like that Wayne's just love all that shit, to the extent where you have the Joker saying, where does he get all those wonderful toys, you know, and he's like... That
reminded me, there's just so many memories, but it reminded me of getting the Batman book out of the library, and that line in the book, where does he get all those wonderful toys? In the book, the Joker says, where does he get those wonderful toys? And then there's a pause, and the Joker looks at it and he goes, what are you waiting for? Go and ask him. But that's not in the film. So I'm wondering whether they recorded that line and cut it for time or whether...
Yeah, there's something weird about that because I do have a memory of that scene being... There is, and I remember reading something about why that is, whether it was an earlier cut or something. Anyway, you have all that, and then you have Michael Keaton, who is presented as a leading man, I think, kind of for the first time, even though he was like in some of his earlier films. But this is the first time you kind of look at him and go, this is a leading man, this guy. And then you have Jack Nicholson, obviously you get that peg as well. Well, even if the film was bad, I think that Jack Nicholson's performance as the Joker in that would have got it over the hump, right? So you get that as well. Let's not discount Kim Basinger in this film because she is... For we guys, again, you're looking at this, you're going, this is the most stunning woman I've ever seen in my life.
She's beautiful. She's also, she's playing the part that she's being asked to play as well. But she is, maybe this is a timing thing for us as well, like being the ages that we were watching it. But she is, quite spectacularly beautiful. But there's a moment, you know, the moment where Batman asks Vicky Vale, would he weigh before he shoots the thing up? And she says 108, I think.
How much do you weigh?
About 108, I think.
Hold on.
He's fiddling about, so there's maybe 2 or 3 seconds where he's fiddling about with his stuff before he's filmed. So she's got nothing to do.
Yeah.
But she does this kind of literal swoon like physical
She's
swoon.
she's
And
fantastic in the film.
It's funny to watch, but she's brilliant.
She's
really
fantastic in the film. She does so much work with her face, and she does so much work in selling the kind of reality of.
Again, it's this type of kind of comic book take on things that Burton's got that allows like these kind of bigger performances that are
and it's
fun.
completely unapologetic about its bigger performances. So you've got her as a peg as well, and then and she was like of that time. She was like a sex symbol of that time, right? And then you also had like Jerry Hall, who was, you know, through in the early 80s, the late 70s, early 80s, she was like considered one of the most beautiful women on the planet. She has all that celebrity wear as well. So you get that peg for a kind of slightly older audience. You guys like Jack Palance for an even older audience. You've got all these pegs are all in here. And then you've got Prince on this Prince on the soundtrack. And I think it's very rare. You look at these Marvel films that release nowadays, right? If you forgive me some time slipping, but I think we need to time slip here to kind of talk about where superhero films have went. So let's take...
But this Batman film, I'm pretty confident in saying was the first time where the studios went, they can make how much money? Like, they can be how culturally impactful? Like,
but now, I think the mistake they make these days with these superhero films is they think just making this superhero film is enough. You know what I mean? Because a lot of these superhero films come out and they cast some people in it. Sometimes the people they cast, with all due respect, aren't they really leading stars? They're no like, you know what I mean? They're no main event stars. With the exception of something like the reason why Black Panther worked so well for me is because you had fantastic actors all through the film. You had a fresh energy, a fresh look. You had Kendrick Lamar in doing the music. It was stacking up the pegs. You get a lot of superhero films nowadays that kind of don't. They just go, it's enough that it's kind of about the superhero and it tells a story and we put it out.
It's more like the superhero film will make these actors famous rather than these are actors with their own kind of experience and stories coming in and contributing like different things.
Because you could argue a wee bit, no really, right? But you could argue a wee bit that Batman and the world of Batman and the story of Batman is one of the least important things about this film. Because it's been set up as just, this is going to be a blockbuster film. Whatever this is about. If it wasn't about Batman, it was some other superhero that just came out there for the first time, it still probably would have done well. But the fact that it's got all this history to lean on just puts it on another level. I really love it. I really love it.
Do we need to say what it's about? Has anybody seen Batman?
We don't need to say what it's about. A wee boy, he's Manda.
Don't go right, okay.
Get done in, and then for some reason he becomes Batman. Then the Joker falls into the sludge and all that, and he's cutting about.
They change it in this Batman film, didn't they, for the comic books, because they say the guy that was in the alleyway that killed Bruce Wayne's Manda is actually him. Is actually the Joker.
Yeah,
but that's not the case in the comic.
It's no. How good is that ending, by the way?
Which one?
Of this film. The ending of this film. How good is the ending?
Just
the whole sequence.
I remember thinking that at the time as well, but I was reminded of it that he does kill a few folk, Batman. He does like fling a few folk to their death.
He certainly kills a few more people in Batman Returns.
He's up to it still, and I think he blows a guy up within the first 30 seconds.
But like
of Batman
the
Returns.
Joker sticking the glasses on and all that kind of stuff, and all that patter. Have you ever danced with the devil and all that?
I love the wee moments, or the wee character moments that he's allowed to have because he's Jack Nicholson. He's, ooh, 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 ooh.
Yeah, just let him go, let him do some stuff.
Wait till they get a load of me.
But it's also like you've got this big heavyweight like Jack Nicholson, and then the beautiful thing, the really satisfying thing is that you've watched Batman, and after all the fuss about, oh no, Michael Keaton, him? And then you watch the film and you love Michael Keaton playing Batman, and then when they go toe to toe at the end, they're equals, these actors. You know what I mean? They're equals. It's brilliant when they're face to face at the end. They two. And it's just it sticks the landing so well. It's so satisfying. And and the music, the actual, never mind the Prince soundtrack, the actual score.
Yeah, the Danny Elfman thing. I had that as one of the first CDs that I owned, was that black cover with the circle with the bat symbol on it. I examined that soundtrack and
And it's just
really beautiful.
that last hero shot rising up and seeing him up there is just.
I was
it's pure
so
magic.
glad because there are definitely shots in this first Batman film, probably Returns as well, but in the first Batman film, there's definitely shots where you can spot model shots a mile away.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the last shot isn't too bad, but there's a few in there.
And I just feel as well, like even the kind of shots, I love a model shot. I love just, I don't know, just the physical element of that. You know,
I prefer it to CGI still.
Yeah.
But that must be an age thing because I don't think young people agree.
You just want, you know, you just want to play in that world. You want to, and that was me.
I've written down here that I love Grisham's office, but have written down a few notes about like set design, and it doesn't seem to be that much a consideration for a lot of filmmakers, but it always has been for Tim Burton. But
Every time you cut to a new location, you're like, all right, what am I going to see here?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? A big fucking giant face or something, or a big, you know what I mean? It's like you're going to see, you know, and it has all that stuff about faces and God, it's just
the mirror scene. I've seen it so many times,
Yeah,
but it
brilliant.
really stood out to me this time for some reason. The mirror scene with Jack Nicholson,
Yeah.
just being in dark, just using his voice.
Mirror!
You understand that the nerves were completely severed, Mr. Napier. You see what I have to work with here.
it's brilliant.
What a performer! What a bloody performer!
Listen, what a bloody performer. Fair play to him. I know I called him a fat sack of shit earlier, but
Well, he is now.
he has no. But I mean, we still have a massive amount of respect for him. But anyway, that's bad. So you liked it?
Oh, I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
What score do you
I
get?
think I always have loved it. Let me just have a look. I'm just looking at my Batman sitting with blue denims, the black polo neck, and his back cave.
I mean, beautiful, right?
Did
Lovely
it
jump, all that, a
did
nice
it
sweater on and
Remind
stuff.
you of anybody that we grew up with?
Oh, for fuck's sake. It does.
Fucking Alfred just letting Vicky Vale into the Batcave just because he was like, I want to do this, so he just did it. I was like, that's a bit odd, isn't it? He's on the payroll.
He was just like, Bruce is not going to do any better than this woman. She's going to come in.
He's not seen Michelle
I know, and
Pfeiffer.
then a sequel happens. But that's the thing as well. Like, see if you're making a superhero film, like, is there anything wrong with when you're making a film? Just give your hero in the film the best looking fucking bird in the world. Is there anything wrong with that? I'm sorry if it makes me sound old fashioned, but is there anything wrong with making a film where your hero has his bird is the best looking fucking woman on the planet? Is there anything wrong with it?
I don't even find women attractive. I'm offended that you have got a dick.
Okay, I'm what I talk about. Are you done yet? Sorry, have you got more notes?
There's a shot of the Batwing that reminded me of, do you remember the Batman trading cards? Did you collect the Batman trading cards?
Oh, you better believe I did.
I don't know why, but a few years ago I got rid of my collection. I'm really
would you
annoyed. I
do
don't know.
Get rid of it? How?
I get rid
Sold
of
it?
everything. I don't even think I sold it. I think I just gave them away to like charity shops or something. But Batman trading cards, one of these cards, a full set I had as well. One of these cards was the Batwing. But in this picture of the Batwing on the Batman trading cards, you could tell a fucking mile away that it was just a guy, like the Batwing was sitting on top of a guy's glove horn, and you could see the black
Beautiful.
sleeve going out of shot. And
So just flying it
having
like that?
aye, that's the way they filmed it. They just went whoosh.
Okay, amazing.
Having that knowledge, when I was watching the film, I spotted some of the Batwing shots were that guy.
I think that's great.
But the film's 9.5, I'm going to say. But I love it. I
See,
absolutely
before we
love
move on, you played the Batman game on the Amiga.
Mm-hmm.
What was your thoughts on that?
I don't have any real...
It was all right, wasn't it?
Aye, Ocean, was it not?
Yeah, it
not
was
an
all
Ocean
right.
game?
A bit of walking about the sewers, going up and down ladders, firing batarangs at people, and then the driving section where you fire the
Aye, that was
grappling hook
quite
to turn the
kind of
corners.
skiddy, I remember, that
Yeah.
driving section.
But kind of all right. I mean, I think there was an Amiga pack that was sold.
Aye, that's true.
I mean,
aye.
they even sold Amigas off the back
Oh, they
of Batman.
couldn't. Aye, they couldn't get enough. They couldn't get enough of that black and gold.
Oh man,
I mean, I know I still have that wee twang that I remember getting for looking at that black and gold logo.
I mean, I would still wear that T-shirt, see a black T-shirt with that Batman logo on it. It's just, it's classic stuff. It is completely bizarre to think that just a matter of a couple of years ago, Michael Keaton was dressed as Batman. Like 15 minutes walk away from here, and we'll never see it. That Batgirl film will never come out. We'll never see it.
You never know. You never know. You never know.
Talk about release.
Did you like it?
I like Batman.
You like the Batman film?
I like Batman a great deal. It got me into a lot of the stuff that I was into. I went for Batman, you know. Then I was like, oh, who's Green Lantern? Oh, who's Starman? Oh, who's, you know. That was it. I want to talk about a wee video game now, if you'll let me. It's a game that was only released in Japan back in the day. It's called Sweet Home.
If you'd been invited to a dinner party and it turned out I'd been invited as well and I was sitting beside you and I said to you, what's your favourite game, pal? And maybe you would say something really casual, right? Really mainstream, like, oh, I like Resident Evil. I'd be like that. Did you know that Resident Evil was inspired by an NES game called Sweet Home that came out in the year 1989? By Guffed, you would be surprised at my knowledge. Look at that, see that door opening there? What does that remind you of? Well, that's right, Resident Evil. I'll tell you what this game is about. It's about a TV crew who goes to a haunted house to explore it. They get locked in, then they have to solve puzzles. They're examining these paintings that this guy's done, and it says "Hey Sexy" there. I don't know if you noticed that. I'm actually playing a translated ROM here, and it's not translated very well, I'll tell you. This game was never released in the West, so we never really get a chance to enjoy it until these translations came around. And you know, like I said, it's a game where it's puzzle solving, also has a kind of JRPG element to it as well, where you're having to have combats with ghosts and turn-based JRPG style. What strikes me about Sweet Home though is that I remember the kind of games that I played on the NES, not on my own NES I should say, but on my nephew Kenny's NES, and none of the games I played were as involved as this. This really feels quite sophisticated, because I'll tell you how this works. You team up with people. You've got a group of 5 people, right? And you will team up with certain members to use their abilities, to use their special items. So for example, if you want to take a photo of something, if you want to film something, you need to bring the cameraman. If you want to vacuum something up, there's somebody that's got a vacuum cleaner. It's things like that. So you're trying to work out which person to use at which time. So you're immediately, right from the get-go, solving puzzles. And a key element of all this is these frescoes that this owner of this mansion painted. You're going to get clues for these things, but you only get clues if you take photos of them. So you have to take your cameraman. I'll take my cameraman into the room here to take a wee snap of this, and you'll see. And we go. And now, because I've got him with me, I can use my camera, take the shot, and letters appear. And immediately, this is like right at the start of the game, but you're immediately starting to solve puzzles. I think where this game influenced Resident Evil is in that puzzle solving thing. I'd always assumed that Sweet Home's influence upon Resident Evil was maybe daily mood or tone, or maybe just setting. But in playing it, I've realised, oh no, it's actually the puzzles, right? It's the kind of weird, old school puzzles that you get in Resident Evil that almost sometimes don't feel like a proper fit with everything else that's happening in Resident Evil. But it's the kind of thing that really fits in a game of this generation, you know? And by the way, this is a proper survival horror game. Take this for example, right? I love this musical build up to the fights. I'm attacked by maggots, right? I get poisoned in that fight. Then I take a couple of steps and a chandelier falls on my head. Right? I've only got a short amount of time to decide whether I'm going to duck. I'll jump to the left, I'll jump to the right. I dive, take a big hit. Right? So now the poison's starting to leach away at me. And then you realise the next bit of inspiration that comes for Sweet Home. The fact it's totally lethal, man. It's really good. I'm going to keep playing it.
You get any games for us, my sir?
I never heard of that, Sweet Home.
Sweet.
Do you want to pick or do you just want me to do it? I'm hopeless at this.
I think you should pick your own games, mate. I mean,
Here we
unless you
go.
want to give me an
I'll do
option. Do you want to give me a choice?
Okay then. Prince of Persia, Pipe Mania, Darius 2.
Pipe Mania, please.
I was going to offer you Pipe Mania again anyway until you picked Pipe Mania, so that's good that you've picked Pipe Mania.
Pipe Mania, please.
Now, there was a noticeable leap forward in every aspect of video gaming when the Amiga came on the scene. Wasn't it just graphically? One of the most astonishing leaps was its sound capabilities. I was used to playing Spectrum games, so I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I mean, listen to this. I don't know about you, but I would buy a ticket to listen to this music at the Glasgow Concert Hall. I think it's of that high a calibre. This is the protection that you used to get on video games to make sure that you hadn't knocked to the video game, but I'm just pirating it, so there's no worries there. This is Pipe Mania. Now don't laugh. The object of Pipe Mania is just to make a really long pipe. I hope you're not being dirty as well while I'm at it. It's nothing dirty about Pipe Mania. You're just laying pipe. You've got a time limit to lay some pipe. And when the time limit runs out, the pipe starts filling up with fluid. This is nothing dirty about this. Pipe starts filling up with fluid, and it must be really thick fluid because it comes out quite slowly. You need to take my word for it, but when you see that fluid start to come out, the pressure really is on when you're playing the game. You really do start to, I do start to get a bit worked up, because the aim of the game is to keep your pipe as long as it can be, while this fluid is threatening, I suppose, to gush out everywhere. So you need to keep your composure about you. Can't let your mind wander. You need to keep your mind on the job, and you need to be thinking, how can I keep my pipe as long as possible? Where am I going to put this next bit of pipe that keeps my pipe as long as possible? Because I do not want that sticky, gooey mess all over this nice nurse's uniform that I'm wearing while I'm playing this game. Pipe Mania is obviously shite, and I shouldn't have spent all the time that I spent playing it, but it represents the end, I suppose, of a time, Pipe Mania, for me, because it was a game that I played just because I had it, and sometimes you just had to play. Back in the olden days, I mean, you just had to play what you had. There wasn't an endless supply like there is now of far too many titles that you'll never ever get through. So I played Pipe Mania until the wee small hours of the morning for months and months, until I got something better to play. Listen, it probably did inspire a lot of people to become plumbers or manky bastards, because they were so fucking bored playing Pipe Mania that they were just like, I'm going to just start sticking stuff into myself and up myself just to stimulate myself after this fucking... Oh my god, the music though is on point.
So there we go.
Did you... Never mind.
See, before we...
I was going to make a joke about piping there, but it's... Forget it.
Before we move away from films, I just want to talk a little bit about Back to the Future 2. Because also in 1989, my mammy took me to see Back to the Future 2, and I was really excited about seeing Back to the Future 2.
It's a really good film. It's a really good film.
And we went, and once again, the queues were around the block. And me and my mammy joined the end of the queue, and the queue went down and down and down and got to the door, and the boy went, we're full.
Seriously?
And I didn't get to see Back to the Future.
That happened to me with Back to the Future. I didn't get up to the door. I didn't even get close to the door before they sold it.
No, we waited in the queue, get right up to the end. So I was devastated. Devastated in that way that you are when you're away, and even though you're like, oh, we can come back in a couple of days and see it, you're still like, it's the end of the world.
Right.
So I was devastated. And there was, my mum says, we can still go in and see something. And there was only one film that was playing that I could get into. And Ryan, it was called Field of Dreams.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
So me and my ma went in to see Field of Dreams, and let me tell you something, that's like a Roland gift for the universe, because Field of Dreams is 10 times the film that Back to the Future 2 is.
I'm surprised you put up with it at that age, though. It is a fair length.
I remember me and my ma both, I was like 12, almost 13. I remember me and my ma just in floods of tears, greeting at that film. You a fan of Field of Dreams yourself?
Oh god, it's amazing. Aye, it's a beautiful film.
When was the last time you watched it?
Only a few years ago, maybe four.
The only reason we're not doing this, we're not doing Field of Dreams on this
Did
show.
I read the short list of the films for 1989 before?
Yeah.
I did read that before, did I? Right, good. There's a lot of really, really, really good films this year.
Amazing film. The only reason we're not doing Field of Dreams, because it is a film I absolutely adore, is because I'm kind of too scared to watch it. Because I've seen it multiple times, but I've seen it multiple times when A, my dad was still alive, and B, when I wasn't a dad myself, and it was hard enough.
It's been as long as that. We should have watched it.
And it was hard enough. I think watching it now that my dad's dead, and I'm a dad myself who will someday die, I just think it would be extremely challenging. But I have watched scenes for it, specific scenes for it again, you know what I mean, just to remind myself, listen, talk about great performances. Kevin Costner in this film is...
Safe hands, isn't it?
See, I mean, 100%, right? Safe hands. He's amazing. And I think it's just... I just wanted to say, if anybody out there hasn't seen Field of Dreams, Jesus Christ, watch Field of Dreams.
Life affirming.
You couldn't make it in this country, Field of Dreams. Field of Dreams needed to have a sport that families...
If you made it would be cricket, and we would automatically go, this is all the fucking shit.
Well, you couldn't even do about cricket because it doesn't unite. It's not a family thing that you... It's not a... You know, it's like a...
I suppose so, you're right.
It's not, and it's not a national sport, cricket.
That's for England.
Yeah, maybe. Our national sport is, you know, it's football. Really, in the UK is the national sport. And football is... The main energy for football is hate in it. That's how I see it. Some people might disagree.
It helps.
But the main energy is hate. So you couldn't make Field of Dreams.
Hate and cheating. We better crack on.
Yeah, what do you want to talk about next?
We've got 2 tellies left, is that right? 2 tellies.
What do you fancy next?
God. Cartoon?
Do you want to... Well, excuse me,
That's
Ryan.
a funny catchphrase.
Well, excuse me.
Keep saying it.
Nice job, hero.
Hey, excuse me, princess.
So this is the Legend of Zelda cartoon, right? Ryan,
Have you seen it before?
I had never...
I'd never seen it before either.
You'd never seen it before?
No.
Well, excuse me, Ryan. So the Legend of Zelda cartoon was a part of the Super Mario Brothers show, right? It was a part of the Super Mario Brothers Super Show.
Yeah, they were on the start of the version that I watched on YouTube. The Super Mario Brothers were dancing a bit before the cartoon started.
So there was a weird Super Mario Brothers show that had like a wrestler in it and all that, and they were kind of... I don't know what the fuck was going on.
In the 1980s, television producers did probably the most amount of cocaine that they've ever done.
They did cocaine? Well, excuse me, Ryan.
So they've got a Super Mario Brothers bizarre TV show that does now. Yeah, why am I telling you? You know about it. It's a disaster. It's an absolute disaster. But they also show cartoons, and The Legend of Zelda is one of the cartoons they show.
I believe it was on every Friday or something. The Legend of Zelda was
well,
like
excuse me.
So, in the Legend of Zelda cartoon, it concerns a wee guy called Link, who... Here's the thing about Legend of Zelda. You might think the wee boy is called Zelda, but he's actually called Link. It's the princess that's called Zelda.
Princess Zelda.
And Link's cutting about with Princess Zelda, and there's a wee fairy as well, whose name is, I can't remember, Sprite or something like that. And basically, the baddies come, and then Link's like that. Well, excuse me!
Literally.
And then they fight the baddies and something. And listen, Link's a mad shagger, isn't it?
He's trying to get his end away with Zelda.
He's trying to get his whole...
pretty much.
No, there wasn't many... You know, if you... This is...
What do you think he would say if you brought that up?
What?
You're trying to get your hole all the time.
He'd probably be like, well, excuse me, Ryan.
going
See,
right
here's the
through
thing,
me. It's going
right?
through me.
Here's the thing. A lot of cartoons back there had that energy about wee guys wanting to get off with people and all that, but this is the most intense. This wee guys want to fucking shag this
I've got
lassie.
fuck all else today.
I wonder if I'm the only one who can see him.
That'd be your lucky day, princess.
That's not what I'd call it. But we've got to get your body back from Ganon.
I don't know how you play Legend of Zelda though. Obviously, it was based off the NES game, right? Legend of Zelda, maybe Legend of Zelda 2 a wee bit. I don't know how you get for that. This wee fucking guys want to pump this lassie, man. I don't know how you get that from that. The episode that we watched, right? I'll just do a quick summary. It was episode 13, yeah.
Yeah.
So Link,
I accidentally watched episode 12 because the internet told me it was episode 13.
you watched the wrong episode.
So I watched the end of the episode 12 thinking it was the end of the series, but the end of episode 12 you won't know because you didn't see it. But the Moglins, is that what they're called? The Moblins revolted basically and turned on Ganon, and they nearly won. But Link and Zelda went into the castle and accidentally freed Ganon. So that all Ganon's like minions and stuff were all celebrating, like, we're free. All the creatures of the underworld were like, we're free. And Zelda and Link went in and fucked it all up.
Or they fucked it up, did
And
they?
Link kept making jokes about how if Ganon's imprisoned and everybody's free, he's out of a job. He's not an adventurer anymore. So the end of the episode 12, it literally ends with Link going, at least I've still got my job. They're all fucking enslaved. They're all fucking enslaved again.
Well, the first note I've got written down here is
You
Link.
should excuse yourself.
Link is a wee prick is the first note I've got down here. My daughter actually, my daughter Lark walked into the room and she's 5 years old. She walked into the room when this is on and she said to me, "Daddy, why is this man shouting all the time?" That's what she said about. So that's her first contact with Link, the legendary Nintendo hero. Why is this guy shouting so much? Which I think is beautiful because Link doesn't even fucking speak.
No, thank God.
In
Thank
the
God he
games.
doesn't speak.
So Link's a wee dick. In this episode, Ganon attacks with the Moblins after being released in the previous episode, I would assume, when Link and Zelda are back at the castle. They're probably just about to get shagging, right? And then Ganon, although Zelda's not into him.
saying
Zelda's
she's not
not
into
into him.
She's saying she's not into him.
Right? Ganon turns up and then he does this kind of spell, fires it at Zelda, but it misses and hits Link and it rips his soul for his body, right? So his body gets captured by Ganon, but his soul's still there, so he's kind of there as a ghost. And he's like that, man.
An annoying
Listen,
fucking
Ryan.
ghost.
No, but listen, he's like that about it. He's like that. Well, excuse me! When he gets turned into a wee ghost, right? No, the music's amazing. Can we say that at least?
Say it if you want.
The music's amazing. Because it is just the music for the games, just kind of treatments of the music for the games, so that's brilliant. Ganon has a completely mental voice. They're firing their sword. The
What
sword
is
just
the deal
like
with
laser
his
gun.
voice? What is the deal?
I don't know what's
Why
going
did they
on
not
with that voice.
make a better, more distinct, kind of unique?
I've got no idea.
Most curious. Still, it matters little. Awake or asleep. Until that Triforce is mine, the princess will never see her pet hero again.
The sword's like a laser gun.
Some of his minions looked like they had boss axe on their faces.
They had the Bossack cheeks. It reminded me of something I can't remember.
That guy out of Star Wars,
yeah, mate, it
pilot
reminded me
guy.
of something for somebody else, or Society, or the guy in the arse in Society, or something. So Zelda's kick.
I wrote down music as classy though.
Yeah, there you go.
Classic.
So we agree on that. Zelda sometimes when she turns to certain angles looks a wee bit ugly, and then when she turns to other angles she's gorgeous. I don't know what's going on there. She's,
Maybe they get different artists to draw different angles.
Maybe, but she's just a bit. She's like, "Come and get it, pig face," and all that. She's calling Ganon pig face, and all, which I just there's no, that's a bit of a red flag for me. So Link is not he's a spirit, right? And he says,
"What? They took his body or something?"
They've took his body, right? And it's only his soul that's left, and only Zelda can see him. And
this explanation's longer than the episode. It's only about 20 odd minutes long.
he's all right about it, though. He's all right about his soul being ripped for his body. But what he says, actually, is he says, it's a drag. I know. It's a drag, he says. His soul being there. Much like Paul McCartney said when he was asked about John Lennon's assassination. Paul McCartney says, yeah, it's a drag. Isn't it? You know what I mean? But obviously, Paul McCartney said that because he was deep in shock and in grief What are you going to say to these fucking parasite journalists? Link said it's a drag because he's a fucking wee prick, right? He's fine with, even as a ghost, he's still trying to get off with Zelda. Even as
would they fall through or something?
He doesn't have a physical body.
She tricked him. She said she would give him a kiss, but she knew that he couldn't kiss her because he's a phantom.
So he fell right through her. And then he goes, "Don't tell me you only love me for my body." I'm going to go into. I did some research after. Did you? I bet you just turned this off and went never again.
I watched 2 whole episodes. It was off as soon as I could get it off.
Zelda saves him at one point and it says, "My heroic princess, kiss me." It says,
"My heroic princess, kiss me."
Oh, shut up.
He's rubbing his. So the body, Ganon and all the moblins are all rubbing. They're rubbing Link's body. They're rubbing Link's body. Now, it was round about this point in it, Ryan, where I started to enjoy it.
Right.
Because I felt to myself, for some reason, they've went, let's do a Legend of Zelda show, but we'll turn it into a screwball romantic comedy. Right?
It looked a bit like to me, like they'd given the idea of a Zelda game, Legend of Zelda game, to an animation house who had no idea what Legend of Zelda was, and had maybe just looked at some of the art.
Yeah, it's a bit behind the times. I say behind the times. It's 1989. He goes, "You swing that sword like a girl," he says at one point. And she says, "I am a girl." And he goes, "I noticed." That's fucking good stuff in it, man.
God.
The good thing is the sound effects for the game are in it. You know what I mean? So that it's nice hearing the sound effects for the game. Everybody's a fucking idiot. All the skeletons and all that. Skeletons attacking the skeletons are idiots.
It happens less in the 13th episode, but the amount in the 12th episode of like misunderstandings or the baddie's gone, "No, on my words, attack," and they go, "Attack," because they said attack. The amount of times that happens is a wee bit.
So they're dafties as well. And the baddies even kind of comment on the concept of the show at one point, because towards the end of the episode, Ganon reveals that the reason why Zelda can see Link, even though it's just his soul, is because she's in love with him. You need to be in love to see it. And then one of the skeletons is like, "Zelda in love with Link? Disgusting!" Which is kind of what I was thinking as well. We don't want that.
I wrote down that Zelda's got really bad taste in men.
Yeah.
He's not a man, is he?
Who, Link? Well, excuse me. I think you'll find he is a man. So eventually Zelda saves him at the end, and well, no one really actually, because Zelda at the end it's still kind of Link that saves Zelda, and at the end they still revert back to gender norms. At the end, you know what I mean? They revert back to gender norms just as well. Graham Linehan would probably be watching this, he'd be like that. "Well, excuse me," he'd be saying, watching this, seeing lassies saving guys, not. And then she does a big comic book laugh at the end, which I like, the big long, because Link goes to kiss her, and the ground collapses and he falls in a hole.
A random sinkhole happens.
A random sinkhole happens, and Link doesn't get to kiss her, and she goes, Jing, that was too long, me laughing like that, right? Well, excuse me! That was how long it fucking went in the show.
Out of 10, marks out of 10.
Right, no marks out of 10. So when they were told, this animation house were told to do a Legend of Zelda cartoon, right? The exec told them to do it, and the exec said, "I want it to be like Moonlighting."
Right.
That's why it's like this. Because Moonlighting was a big hit.
It's spot on. It's identical. I don't know how I didn't see it.
The exec loved the banter between Maddie Hayes and David Addison in Moonlighting. He says, "Well, that's what the kids will want. Make Legend of Zelda like that, and animation house will like that." Well, excuse me. How are we supposed to make this like Moonlighting? Now, let me tell you something else about that catchphrase, Ryan. You know the catchphrase I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know.
So when Link goes like that.
Yeah,
Well, excuse me. The exec asked that gets said in every episode. It was the exec's idea, that catchphrase, and he says, "Make sure Link says that in every episode."
Fucking unreal.
So the director,
just because he's only seen 3 telly shows.
Ryan, the director says if he wants this in every fucking episode, It's not just going to be in every episode. It's going to be about fucking 40 times in every episode, almost as if like a hostile act back against them. And that is why,
That's
Ryan.
how it felt. That's how it felt.
That is why.
So did you like it?
Well,
I
was fucking howling laughing at it, man.
Nah, I couldn't get there.
I was howling laughing at just how destructive it was as a. It's like
how
it's just
damaging to the brand.
how
you mean,
damaging to the how completely alien from Legend of Zelda is.
Zelda, didn't mind that advert. Leapers. It was like that
That's
for
right,
fucking 20 odd minutes.
It just makes you think Americans are so fucking annoying, aren't they? You know what I mean?
They're loud.
Sorry.
They're quite loud.
So if any Americans out there are listening to us, are probably going like that. Well, excuse me.
Right, let's move on to something else.
So 1989 was a very, very, very important year in my life. As many of you will know, I am a huge fan of board games. Almost love board games as much as I love video games. Not quite, but almost. And 1989, let me tell you, was one of the greatest years in board game history. Here in this segment, I'll tell you why. If I was in the toilet doing a pee at a urinal, right, or a urinal, I've been on this planet for 47 years and I'm still not sure whether it's a urinal or a urinal, and I'm not sure whether it's urine or urine, right? But that's getting off the point. If you were to come up to me while I was at the urinal or the urinating, I was peeing it into the urinal, and you came up to me and you said, Rab, you tapped me in the shoulder, I turned around, I pissed all down your chest, and you said, Rab, I think 1989 was the best year for board games ever. I'd be like that. Well, hold on a minute, calm down, and then I'd think about it, and then I'd go, actually, mate, you've maybe got a point. Let's wipe a wee bit of that piss off you there. And I'm going to tell you for why you've got a point when you say that to me in the toilet. 3 board games that came out in 1989 that I just want to highlight at this point. All 3 of which I think are highly significant games in board gaming, right? The first one is this, it's Aliens, the board game from Leading Edge. This is obviously based on the Cameron Aliens movie that came out a couple of years before, and this, 86 I believe, this is a fantastic board game. It lets you play out the events of the movie. All the characters are in there, the aliens are in there, you're moving around the base. It's got everything you need. It's all kind of on paper and cardboard, wee standees. There's no fancy miniatures or anything in this. But there was an Aliens game that came out recently, right? This is a true test of this one. And a lot of people were saying, I think I preferred the old Leading Edge one back in 1989. Still stands up. Still a very stressful, tense game. And one I play quite regularly. The next biggie that came out in 1989 is, of course, Hero Quest. Here it is, the original release of Hero Quest. Hero Quest was a beautiful board game that was as much a toy as a board game that allows one person to play as a dungeon master, leading the other players through the game, set up a map, set up a dungeon, miniatures moving around, fighting each other, casting spells. All the good stuff you want in a dungeon crawl is all there in Hero Quest. It's a very stripped down game. Very stripped down, very rules light, but stands the test of time, and that's proven by the fact that Hero Quest has been re-released just recently and is selling great guns. It's gone great guns. People are buying it, buying new expansions, brand new expansions that were never released back in the day, are pouring it now, and people are just lapping it up. And the game is just exactly the same now as it was back then. Nothing really changed. Same rule set, still stands up. People are still enjoying that simple, pure dungeon crawl gameplay. But the third game that arrived in 1989 that we have to look at is one of the greatest board games ever made. If you were to tell me it was your favourite board game, I wouldn't argue. I would say you've got a lot of taste, my brother or my sister. And it is, of course, Space Hulk. A Warhammer 40k themed game about Space Marine Terminators moving through a big old spaceship, taking out gene stealers that are kind of a wee bit like the aliens for aliens. This game it's just a miraculous bit of game design. Hugely influential game as well. The Overwatch rule that Space Hulk featured so strongly has been used in a million games since then, and the Overwatch rule is still, I think, one of the greatest mechanics in tabletop gaming. If you've never played Space Hulk, I don't know what to fucking say to you. You need to get it. You need to get yourself a copy. There's been multiple editions by this point, and every edition is just glorious. So yeah, that was 1989. Can you believe that in 1989, 3 games as significant as this all arrived in that 1 year? That's wonderful, eh? I was only 12 years old. What a way to move into your teen years with these on your table. 1989. You a fan of Hero Quest? Do you like a wee game of Hero Quest?
I do. I remember it very fondly. Not just the board game, but I remember the Amiga version of Hero Quest very fondly.
You're a fan of the Amiga version, weren't you? Yeah. Space Hulk, but you're a fan of Space?
Oh, for sure. 3DO Space Hulk. Oh, you're talking about the board game?
Talking about the board game,
Yeah, I think I've only ever played that with you, but aye. Belters. All belters.
Fantastic. What a great time.
Let me tell you a headline. 5-star appear on CVBC's Going Live to promote their latest single, With Every Heartbeat. Now, during a live phone-in, a teenage caller verbally abuses them and asks them why they're so fucking crap. Believe that? In the 80s? On TV in the 80s, why are you so fucking crap?
Okay, Elliot, what's your question?
I'd like to ask 5-star whether they're so fucking crap, they're fucking
Thanks very much, Elliot. Nice to hear from you.
I bet you 5-star will like that, man. Well, excuse me!
Right, that's it.
So, listen. What game are you giving us, Ryan? Let's hear a bit of game chat for you. Take us back to the digital world of games.
I'm going to talk about a Game Boy game, because the Game Boy came out this year. Now, this Game Boy game's not out in the UK yet, but it is out technically on the planet Earth.
Oh,
so
here we go, fuck's
Guft
sake.
should be alright, maybe. It's released on planet Earth.
Guft head office to make sure that's alright. Are you going to be talking about Tetris?
No.
Oh!
I'm going to talk about Super Mario Land. I think because I've always been a pain in the arse, I've long held this ambition. I shouldn't really be telling you, the audience, this, but I've long held this ambition to do a game review that's got absolutely nothing to do with the game. I've always loved making niche references that nobody gets apart from me and 4 other people on the planet, and trying to do what you're not meant to do. So I'd love to make a game review that's got absolutely nothing to do with the game, so that people watch it and go, what even was that? I've maybe already done that actually, now that I think about it. Anyway, Super Mario Land on the Game Boy isn't going to be a game review that isn't about Super Mario Land. Instead of not talking about the game Super Mario Land on the Game Boy that came out in 1989, I think I can do a review of the game using just one word. It's the first time I've ever been able to say I think I can use one word to describe Super Mario Land on the Game Boy. Ready? Undeniable. That's what this game is. Undeniable. I'm sitting here playing, I don't know what version this is, it's a version of it, but I'm sitting here playing this 36 years after it came out, and it's brilliant. Impeccable. There are other words that I could have used, but undeniable. The music, how well it plays, how meticulously, brilliantly designed the levels are. It's just so good. And it's just so much better than all the other shiters that I've been playing for the last 10 years, I now realise. To be fair, that must have been a lot of people's reactions when they played this game. It must have been. They must have went, oh, this is... How many times, now that I'm thinking about this, has Nintendo done this? How many times has this game company went, remember that bar? Stick it a wee bit higher again. How many times has Nintendo been undeniable? And how many times have we shilled for Nintendo? With nae thanks, nae rewards, other than endless brilliant games that they make. Super Mario, I'm going to end this one the way they used to end game reviews on TV, really stilted, remember? Super Mario Land on the Game Boy is a really good game. 8.7 out of 10. Now here's some footage of me dying. In the game, I mean.
Any more headlines?
Margaret Thatcher, along with American President George Bush and Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, declared the end of the Cold War after 40 years. Nice of them, it's nice of them. And now everything's perfect. I think everything after that was perfect.
That was nice, wasn't it? That leads us quite nicely. See the end of the Cold War, Russians, the Cold War, stuff that happened after World War II.
We're going out of the 1980s as well, and we haven't said, we need to say, just so that we have said it, we need to also say Indiana Jones, because that was also a big thing in the culture. Number
Indiana
2.
Jones is in the fucking bin, man.
It is now, but in the 1989 times, number 2 grossing film of the year. I also saw that in the cinema as well with my dad. Mind the one with Sean Connery?
Yeah.
Bring up that clip of Sean Connery talking about...
Let's see the man, Sean Connery, one of Scotland's favourite sons.
Greatest exports.
One of Scotland's favourite sons.
Well, if you have tried everything else, and women are pretty good at this, they can't leave it alone. They don't want to have the last word, and you give them the last word, but they're not happy with the last word. They want to say it again, and get into a really provocative situation. Then I think it's absolutely right.
To give her a good slap.
Yeah, absolutely.
There he is. There's a man.
Speaks for all years.
So I mean, Indiana Jones, 2 good films.
Maybe 2. I know the point you're making. I'm just saying it was culturally.
Yeah, no, it was big. Listen, fucking Harrison Ford, man. What a boy. What a boy, man.
Remember? Remember?
Yeah, I do remember.
Right, let's go. One TV to go.
World War II, Russians, Cold War. It can only be Sylvester McCoy. And this 1989 heralded the end of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Never to be seen again. Or so we thought. Some years later, the Doctor Who TV movie would arrive. Very, very special moment in our life.
Mm-hmm.
The Doctor Who TV movie. Do you remember why?
No.
Because on the night that the Doctor Who TV movie aired in the 1990s, our friend Graham Hanna had to run home to do a shite.
Is that the same night?
The same
night.
night.
Oh my God, I did not realise that.
That night. We went on a big long walk and he had to run home to his grands to do a shite.
Now, Graham's always had, shout out to Graham Hanna, Graham's always had gut problems. He still has them to this day. He's had many investigations and trials that he's went on for his gut works. Still having problems with it. But on that day, as you rightly said, things got so bad that he did originally run into a few bushes to see if he could get enough cover.
Yeah.
But he couldn't get enough cover, so he had to run.
The reason why as well was that and I feel bad about this to this day, when he went into the bush, we would shout, "There's a man doing a shite in that bush."
Excuse me, there's a man doing a jobby.
So he had to run sweating home to his granny's to do a shite. So that leads us to Doctor Who.
Don't move! Hands up! About time too. Call yourself Royal Marines? You're a disgrace. Those boots are filthy. What would happen if the Germans attack now?
Sorry, sir.
In fact, how do you know we're not Germans? Well, answer me.
We don't look like Germans, man.
1989. This is one of the final stories of Doctor Who in that original run of Doctor Who.
Do you remember watching Sylvester McCoy's Doctor?
Yes.
I'm not sure I do. I think I watched the start, but I don't think I watched. I have no recollection of this whatsoever.
You were definitely aware of Ace.
Oh, for sure. Oh, aye, definitely aware.
So Ace was the Doctor's assistant through this period, and and we'll get to that. But the story we're covering is called The Curse of Fenric, right?
4 parts.
4 parts.
Stays to the old kind of traditional format almost of old Doctor Who, 4 like 23, 24 minute episodes. So you've got about an hour. No, really an hour. You've got 90 seconds each, the start of each episode, which is usually highlights of the previous episode. So
yeah, there's a wee wind back.
You're looking at about 23 minutes an episode.
Now, I don't know really how to start here. It felt like we had today Doctor Who.
See, when it comes to the plot of this, you're really going to have to take the lead on this, because I have watched it. I honestly have watched it, but by the end, I was like, I hope Rab explains what happened.
Here's what the Curse of Fenric is about, right? So there were these. So the Doctor and Ace arrive in World War II, United Kingdom. It's 1940. And there is, I initially thought, oh, there's some Germans here, but it's actually Russians. There's Russians there as well, who were our allies, of course, during the war. And they turn up, the Doctor and Ace turn up at this military base in the UK, but it's under-defended. There's no defence. They're like, oh, what's this? People would just walk in, this isn't it, right?
And it's Ace that points that out.
Ace points that out, right? So they go in, and there's
We never
this...
talked about the title sequence. Title sequence has been, so that... Quite long, maybe about a minute or so. No, the best Doctor Who.
I don't like the
title.
wink.
Nah.
I don't like
the wink.
I don't like the Doctor winking at us.
Don't like the theme either, to be honest. So many...
I don't like the logo.
Yeah, it's aged badly.
It's a Mike Reed's pop quiz vibe logo. I don't like it. So that's a bummer. So the Doctor and Ace go in and they find there's this professor guy or something, right? And he is trying to crack the German signal codes message. He's using a big Enigma machine type thing. And however, in the seas around this base, there is an ancient Viking curse.
Around the town, there's like lots of Viking clues and stuff like that.
There's a curse in this.
There's been a Viking influence
There's
in
a
the area.
curse in this area. And basically what the British are trying to do is something really bad here, right? They've found this terrible toxin and they've packed it into this Enigma machine as an explosive, and they're like, we're going to let our Russian allies steal this Enigma machine, so they take it back to Russia and take it back to Moscow, and then we're going to detonate it because they're our allies just now, but they won't be after the war, so we want to be able to take them out when the time is right. So the British are kind of bastards in this, right? We're kind of the baddies in it. Now, the curse. So let me explain to you here. So the curse, the Viking curse, what it does is it turns people into vampires. It can turn people into vampires and they call them hemovores, I think they call them. Essentially vampires, though. And these vampires work for a kind of they work for Fenric, who is this dark ancient evil. But also he's a dark ancient evil, but there's also the Great Serpent as well, which I think is unconnected. The Great Serpent is...
See, this is what I mean. This is why it was getting confusing for me.
Anyway, ultimately what it means is there's all this stuff going on, and Fenric is actually playing a great game. He's put all these pieces in play in order to claim another body and rise again and meet the Doctor.
Now, was it...
his great nemesis.
So it was Fenric that knew the Doctor then?
Fenric planned all of this. Right, Fenric planned it all right down, in fact, to the existence of Ace and Ace being with the Doctor.
Yeah, I knew that much.
Right.
Do you think that Fenric is quite a shite name?
Fenric
to me...
Is it because it sounds a bit like Baldric?
It sounds a bit like a bumpkin, like a farmyard bumpkin type of guy, Fenric.
But
I don't get like a Time Lord's adversary.
But there's probably some myth and lore about it or something, isn't there? It's probably a real fucking... I don't fucking... Anyway.
I fucking loved it when the lassies get turned into vampires and they stuck on the Reeves and Mortimer style big long nails. That's what the costume department.
Tam Shepherd fingers went on. I have never. So Ryan messaged me at one point, right, when we were watching this, and Ryan said, "I'm going to have to speed this up," and I nearly had a heart attack when he said that, because I've never seen anything so fast moving in my life.
By the last episode, it's ridiculous the amount of things that are going. But that was always going to happen because I was like, "There's too many things."
The editing is fucking I don't know what's going. I felt like I was having a seizure watching this. So you've got the Doctor and Ace will maybe walk in and they'll say a line, and you won't even wait for a reaction. It'll cut dead on the line ending. And I think this has been cut to fuck, this story. And what this felt like to me was that it was a story. I should have just read up on this. It probably was cut to fuck. It just feels like there was maybe another episode in this, and it's been stripped right down.
But even still, I think it. I mean, I would say this. being an editor, but I thought it could have been edited differently because at least a couple of the cliffhangers in the earlier episodes are like shite. They were shite cliffhangers.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there was. So here's the thing, right? So I started watching it, and my initial thought was, "Oh, this is really rotten." Right?
Correct.
There was a bit of electronic Glenn Miller music playing and stuff, and the Russians at one point go like that. From now on, everything in English.
They were
subtitled. By the way, the subtitles, how fucking mental did they look?
I've written it down. I quite enjoyed. They were Armenians, I think, weren't they? I think they might have been. Were they fighting for the Russians? But they said they were Armenians. But somebody said they were Armenians. I'd written down the subtitles because it looked as if they went, "Oh fuck, we need subtitles. How do you do that?" Like, how does anybody know how to do subtitles? And they've had to like cobble together like this on-screen graphic.
Well, we need to show this. It looks like they've went, we don't know how to do this. And a guy that works on Top of the Pops goes, I know how to do. I know how to do. I've written fucking Shawadi Wadi and fucking Mad.
I'll just change Rotherham FC to what the guy's saying.
And it's mental looking, right? But anyway, the subtitles don't last long because for some reason, this Russian or Armenian or whatever the fuck he is guy says to the rest of his troop, from now on, everything in English. For no other reason that I can imagine other than they're like, this is just a fucking hassle. Mm-hmm. Let's just talk in English from now on, right? So people can understand us.
If they'd kept talking Russian, you wouldn't have known. They should have kept doing it, but you wouldn't have noticed how bad they were at acting as well.
They should have done that in Hunt for Red October instead of that nice transition that they did. They should have just had Sean Connery go, oh fuck this, let's talk in English for the rest of the...
Bystra, dawaj na biurek. Dozorov, everything in English. From now on, everything in English. Quick, down on the beach.
There's scenes in this story that are like 10 seconds long, 4 seconds. I'm not even joking. Mm-hmm. It'll go somewhere for like 5 seconds and then cut somewhere else. It is fucking... It's a shambles, man. Mm-hmm. Nicholas Parsons turns up as a priest or a minister in it.
I've written at one point when things were getting heated, I wrote Parsons and McCoy, 2 heavyweights in my prime.
Listen, it was nice to see Nicholas Parsons. It was nice to see Nicholas Parsons as well. See, Nicholas Parsons was a TV personality. He was never off telly when we were kids, really, and he was just a kind of nice man. It was just nice. It's not like nowadays where you hate everybody that's on telly.
Is that why he was there? I think that might have been the explanation as to why he was in it. Because it has to be on telly all the time. Why is Nicholas Parsons in Doctor Who? Because he has to be on telly.
Ryan, I would just like to say though that for as much as
he was fine,
you're going to trash this show, right? There was some really good dialogue in it.
Well, it stood out as a kind of at least differently written Doctor Who. It was differently written, so I think there had been a bit of research and stuff going on. There were bigger themes at play sometimes.
Oh, there was big themes at play. There was a line I really loved in it where the guy who's working on the Enigma machine, he says, one day there's going to be thinking computers. And the other guy goes, yes. But whose thoughts will they think? Mm-hmm. Which I thought for the present time, you're like, you're fucking damn right, mate. This is a fucking kids' telly show for 1989, and you've got nice wee moments like that in it. There's a good bit where there's a boy dead under the water, and he's really struggling to be dead. He's under the water. He's wanting out the water, and if you can visualise a boy desperately wanting to be out of the water and pretending he's dead at the same time, that's what you get here.
Our crew is being killed.
And Ace calls a guy an armpit at one point.
Does she? I didn't
What are you doing,
that.
armpit? She says.
I didn't catch that.
Hitler was described by the doctor as a dreadful man. Yeah, a dreadful man. Can he do Sylvester McCoy's voice? It's a weird accent he's got, because he's Scottish, obviously.
A lot of the times in the episodes, he struggled to be doing his own voice, to be honest.
Dreadful man.
About 3 minutes in, I mean, judge for yourself, Robert's going to disagree, but 3 minutes in, pretty sure he looks a bit steaming, to be honest, McCoy.
I don't suppose you know what Dr. Judson's office is. Never mind. This way.
Yes, sir.
There's a bit of slurring going on.
You can't see that. You can't say he was steaming. You can't say
I can't say it for sure. I can't say it for sure.
You can't say a guy was drunk at his work. So, Ace understands all the logic machine stuff and the Enigma machine stuff.
Brainy,
She's a maths she's a maths whiz. She's an ace. I just like all that part of like his mind's in pieces and all that. I love all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of that dark, almost like weird fiction, weird fantasy patter.
So you're leaning towards talking about like the lines and stuff like that. I've noticed because we're kind of glossing over the fact that we did say that things are kind of put together, kind of shambolic. There's nothing. It sounds harsh, but there really doesn't seem to be much artistically kind of. There doesn't seem to be an awful lot of artistic direction when it comes to like putting the program together. It's a lot of like, how can we make this work? How can we cobble this show together
on this budget?
And they're still having these ideas about like soldiers and what can we get for the prop department.
Well, that's a massive amount of ambition, doesn't it?
Yes,
you wouldn't even. But this is. In its defence, they wouldn't even let you make a show like that nowadays.
Maybe it's because the show's been running for so long. But if a new product, if you were to walk in as a writer or whatever, and the Doctor Who, and they go, we've not got any budget, you immediately surely you start thinking about like, what kind of story can I tell?
Yeah,
where I don't need the budget. Yeah, where I've got like my core crew, my core cast. But you'd write something like Dalek or something like that, wouldn't you?
I feel sorry for them though, because they were probably look at what was happening in the 1980s. Everything was action, and they were probably thinking we need to compete with, I suppose, all of this stuff. I mean, there are explosions and there's fighting and there's running about and they really make a good effort. Can I just say here though, and
even if you'd been more artistically brave, it was still getting cancelled. I think the show.
Yeah, 100%. I've been avoiding saying this, but I'm going to have to say it. I've written down here, and this is just an early note while I was watching it. I don't like McCoy's plummy way. That's what I've written.
Are you talking about his delivery or
his plummy way of cutting about?
I thought. Again, I don't know if this
this is an early note I've written.
No, I know what you mean, because I felt similarly, because I don't know if it's too much, but I almost felt like it was a wee bit disrespectful sometimes, the way, like, I don't think he was I just didn't think there was enough performance in it a lot of the time. A lot of the time it wasn't like, it doesn't feel like drama even. It's like, it definitely feels like kids show, but it felt so loose and so, it was so nonchalant a lot of the time that I felt I was being disrespected as a viewer.
Wow. I mean, that's harsh. I do want to say, however, I think Sophie Aldred's really good. I think she carries it on her fucking back.
She's fun. She's good fun.
She's fun. She's a really sweet performer. She has a kind of she's far more engaged with everything that's happening around her than anybody else in the show. I feel like
a lot of the time I was like, I don't have any memory of this. Like, surely I would have watched Doctor Who back at the time. I definitely remember the earlier episodes of this season, but then there was a moment 3 episodes into this story, 8 minutes and 23 seconds. If you want to check it yourselves, there's a flash. Ace does like a high kick, and there's a flash at Ace's suspenders. And it was in that moment that I had an immediate, there was a familiarity. I haven't watched it because I remembered I really fancied Ace in this show. But it took that wee flash of suspender.
We guys really fancied Ace.
She was cool.
She wore a bomber jacket. She ran about with a rucksack. She was into explosives.
She's got suspenders on.
She was super intelligent. She was brainy. She would say things like "wicked." She would get excited and stuff like that. I think Ace is a really good character, a really good assistant.
She's got suspenders on.
And it was interesting as well because it was a smart move. So my dad was the Doctor Who fan in the house, right? My dad loved Doctor Who. Watched it right from the start, right the way through. Tom Baker was his man. My dad was a big fan of Peter Davison as well, like Peter Davison's Doctor. My dad was like about Colin Baker. I don't know about this guy.
See, this is am I right in am I chronologically correct here? You've got Davidson, Colin Baker, McCoy. Now that, I'm not a Doctor Who expert. I've not watched anywhere close to all the episodes. I've only seen a cursory amount. But for the outside, that looks like, with the show getting cheaper and stuff like that, the level of performance has also changed as well. Because what I was saying about McCoy and how it made me feel about a viewer, I also get a wee flavour of that for Colin Baker as well sometimes.
Nah, I'm a big fan of Colin
He's
Baker's Doctor.
He's a bit panto sometimes.
He is, but he's also the thing is, Colin Baker. Colin Baker has a very theatrical edge to his Doctor, right? And I really enjoy Colin Baker's Doctor, but it has a theatrical edge, and I kind of feel like McCoy takes some of that. I think McCoy is that way because he takes some of that for Colin Baker. It's odd, and this was, by the way, Curse of Fenric is a darkening of McCoy's Doctor as well.
Mm-hmm.
By this point, he's even more clownish earlier, you know?
Aye. Unbearably so.
So, look. A few things I want to say. This show, for a kid's show, it's very irreligious, right? Mm-hmm. So it's very irreligious, which is quite impressive. There's these themes that you're talking about, you know, they've got this weapon of mass destruction, and the code word that will make it go off is the word love, right? Things like that. It's actually really quite dark in its themes and in its story. You know, all that stuff, like everybody wants to come into the water and stuff like that. All these, there's a kind of feeling of suicide around it all as well. But you know, talking about British bombs landing on German cities, killing German children, talking about the crimes that we did to the Germans. But then you've got the mix of that with this kind of bad zombie film stuff.
It was a mishmash, wasn't it? It was a bit of a mishmash happening.
It has this terrible thing, and I'm going to have to get up to show you. But every kill, and there's a fair amount of kills, but every kill is this, right? Ryan, can you get up a wee second? Can you just come?
Stand up?
No, don't stand up. Crouch at that table so the wide can get us, right? Crouch at that table. So you're there. Now, if I was in this episode of Doctor Who and I was coming to kill Ryan, this is how I would do it.
Very slowly.
Watch.
Oh, I can't get away. I'm trapped.
Or like that, and then I would lean.
Let me get a
So for people listening to this, it's a lean. It's essentially hang me up, and then the villain leans over, and it's like this weird.
There's a scene in a cottage
thing
where the two young lassies have turned into vampiresses.
Mm-hmm.
And they kill an old woman in exactly that style, very, very, very slowly. And it was another one of these instances in the episode where I was like, even with the lack of makeup, even with the lack of lighting, you've got a cottage. Like, you can change shot if you want. Like, you can change angles. You can make an effort, but it's all just one shot, pan across slowly, end a scene.
They don't have the time. They don't have the budget. They're probably into a by this time a almost like bad habits. Bad habits. Now,
one of the lassies, one of the vampiresses, I'm talking about this quite a lot for some reason. I think it might have been Kim Basinger woke something up inside me, but I was looking at one of these lassies.
This is the horniest you've been in an episode of CVXX.
I don't understand it, but the lassie with the big curly dark hair that was in this episode who turned into a vampire with the long nails, I was like, she looks awfully familiar. There's something I'm being reminded of, but she was in Grange Hill. She played Jane.
You went Googling her, you on her Facebook, not?
Did she sadly no kicking the ball anymore?
You're joking?
2010, she stopped kicking the ball.
Fucking hell.
Joanne Kenny, her name is.
Jesus Christ. So there we go, dude. McCoy's still alive. I've now got a note here. Flashes of brilliance from McCoy.
Fuck, what are you on about, man?
I'm serious. There are moments, lines, there are moments where I'm like, now that I like this, you know, and this is the problem with McCoy. I like it, and I like Ace all the way through it. No, there's a point in this where they need to distract enemy soldier.
Yeah.
And Ace says, I'll distract them. And the doctor's like, how are you going to distract them? And she says, Doctor, or Professor, because she calls him Professor. Says, Professor, I'm not a little girl anymore. It says.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I feel like I don't know. That was quite odd. And he's like, all right.
Well, she was distracting the guy by no too explicitly introducing the prospect of a shag to this soldier guy. So the soldier just blindly follows her.
However, she goes up and the stuff she says to this guy to seduce him is absolutely bananas. We'll need to play the clip because the dialogue is unreal. She talks about a storm coming. She can feel the storm through her clothes. She talks about moving fast at the speed of light. She sometimes moves so fast it's like she doesn't exist anymore and all that. It's the fucking weirdest dialogue you've ever heard.
Faster than the second hand on a watch.
Much faster. We're not even moving yet. Hardly cruising speed. Sometimes I move so fast, I don't exist anymore.
But I did a bit of research, Ryan, right?
Go on.
And the dialogue originally was, oh, I'm so hot under these clothes and all of that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
The weather was so fucking rotten, right?
Oh, that's one of my notes because there's some
The weather's rotten.
There's certain scenes that they filmed in the piss and rain, but the sound quality is just like, how can this be on telly?
Yeah.
Like the rain is falling right on the microphone.
They have had a nightmare filming this story. It's worth watching just to see what happens when a production makes fucking that first contact with British weather and suddenly the doctor's running about with a brolly, you know, they're under a brolly trying to do the scenes. And suddenly Ace is hitting it with this mad dialogue that has to fit this kind of overcast, potentially rainy weather.
I don't understand. The future? How can you know?
I've seen it.
How good are your parish records? Oh, they go back as far as the 18th century.
Good. Now for a little local history.
Right.
Anyway, Fenric eventually turns up, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
He gets a physical body. And I'm a Doctor Who fan, right? And all I want...
See,
right?
when they're getting chased, I've just saw a random note there. When they were getting chased by the paper mache heat guys that came out of the sea.
Yeah, paper mache guys come out of the sea.
They paper mache heat guys literally ripped away a stone arch. Like they ripped the stone arch out. But after that, they were like playing horn grabby games with the people to keep them away. It's like, how's that? They can rip away a stone arch, but they can't get a door open or they can't overpower some flappy humans. Anyway, carry on.
Listen,
Fenric.
all I need, right, for a Doctor Who story is a baddie to say things like this. We play the contest again, Time Lord.
Right.
I'm into what I'm into it.
I'm into it as well.
I'm into that.
However.
However. So
this was bad. Can we say that this was bad? This was bad TV.
It's bad, you know, they're talking about power of evil and Nazi war. It's almost like made worse by the fact they're making these big reaches into meaning.
Aye.
You know, and they just can't quite deliver.
Not just that, it's also things like Ace is scared of water. And she's got a bad relationship with her ma. She hates her ma.
Mm-hmm.
She meets her ma in baby form. She meets her baby ma. But all these themes, all these heavy themes that are in this that are a bit of a mishmash.
It's weird. It's like I do think they have a good story, and I think they have some good dialogue. And I think the writing is there to a great extent.
Sometimes.
But it's like they've handed it off to, and it feels awful saying this, but it's like they've handed it off to an amateur dramatics group.
Aye, but that's just where the production was at the time, though. We're saying it's low budget, but it's still ATV budget. I'm a wee bit harder on it. I think they could have made a bit more of an effort with what they had. But
Sylvester McCoy says at one point, and this just sums up how this must have been such a nightmare to shoot, right? He goes, it's part of Fenric's evil game, like this weather. So he's making note that the fucking shit weather we've been watching all through it has also been part of Fenric's evil game. The nurse that's in it is the brilliant Anne Reid, who's like just one of the best actors in the UK, though. She's in it, kicking a ball. Fenric bangs an evil grin right down the lens at one point. I quite like that. I love it.
Oh god, that was just that was like the one moment in the hour or 4 episodes where I was like, no, that seems like an artistic decision. Like that's a nice shot that they had that they dropped that in.
The frustrating thing about this story is that I think it could have been really scary.
It was creepy and like it really stood out, even though it's like a 2-second shot, even if that. But it's really stood out.
I think the story could have been really scary.
But that's what I mean about just simply changing angle and stuff like that. I'm going like, you've got a cottage, you've got some kind of costume, like do something. Don't do that. Wide shot pan, don't do that. But they did it. That's not to say that I didn't absolutely shit myself when that lightning bolt crashed down and set that chessboard on fire.
Yeah.
That was horrifying.
Right, Ryan, I would like you now.
I've got one line that I'm going to need to highlight if we're moving on for Doctor Who.
No, we're not moving on.
22 minutes in, very end of the episode 4. Ace is talking about her mum, and she gets upset, but she goes for like 0 to as the most upset a person can be, like that. And it's one of the most bizarre deliveries of a line I've ever seen in anything. When she says,
Why can't I stop hating her?
You love the baby.
I didn't know she was my mum!
Because she probably had one shot at doing it. And then
I know, it was, I know. Anyway.
Again, though, just sometimes it just tries to, sometimes you're almost wanting, I like that how irreligious it was for a kids show in the 80s. I like, there was, a character saying, workers of the world, you're right. It's like left wing leaning. It's like, the politics are good. This is the other thing. The politics are good.
I mean, there's a lot in there.
Ryan, explain the ending to me. Ryan knows his way about a chessboard, right? Ryan still kicks a ball, still kicks a pawn when it comes to chess. So the Doctor sets up some chess puzzle that Fenric has to solve.
You don't really see it as the thing. I can't explain it to you because I don't.
But what does Ace say? Ace solves it, right? And she tells Fenric.
She says it's like a logic problem, doesn't she? But you don't see it clear enough to know what they're on about. Thankfully, because it undoubtedly wouldn't have made any sense.
Okay, and so that was it. And then it ended with just the lassies melted. By the way, the lassies that
they turned into puddles.
No, here's the thing, right? So I would say in the kind of in the conversation these days about Doctor Who, the talk is that something like the Wolves of Fenric is considered a good one, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it isn't.
No, it's terrible. It's terrible.
And with that, Doctor Who came to an end. Well, another story, and then it came to an end. And that was Doctor Who over. And more so than that, Ryan, 1989 is over. We've actually overrun our time. So Guffed are going to be fucking raging at us. We need to wrap this up. We're going to see your next episode in the 1990s, if that's all right.
John Cassavetes died in 1989.
He wouldn't have liked the 90s. We're going to see you in 1990. Spread the word about this show. Tell people the 90s are about to start, and all you young team can all start to get involved now because you have been born.
It's the 1990s. It's when your ma was born.
Your father ejaculated into your mother's vagina, and the spunk became a baby, and you were born off the baby.
That spunk's your face now.
You were born off of the baby. Welcome to CVXX. Good night.